From the iAcquire offices in Midtown Manhattan, it's Lunch Break with Michael King.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of Lunch Break, formerly called Lunch with an Expert. Today we have one of my good friends, John Doherty from Distilled. And just recently he became the director at Distilled, New York, and he's one of the best SEOs that I know. We also have Tom Harari, our new SEO Manager. And there's a lot of questions that people have given John that we're just going to jump into.
Let's go.
What? Before that, how are you doing, John?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Yo, it's good to be here.
It's definitely good to be here.
I like that there are 3 ex-Philadelphia SEOs chilling in New York, doing it up.
And to that point, Philadelphia SEO kind of runs the world.
It's
just
true.
Want to put that out there.
PHL SEO. NYC SEO is coming up though.
It is.
Putting it on the map.
It is definitely. I was actually quite surprised to see what the quality of New York City SEO was when I got here.
Surprised.
Good, bad.
I'm just gonna leave it at that. So,
there's your answer.
Let's just hop right into it. So,
Okay.
How's your role at Distilled changed since Tom Critchlow's departure?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, Tom Critchlow left a couple months ago, went to Google, worked in their creative lab there. So, he's doing real well there. It was a loss to Distilled for sure. He's one of my most trusted friends, one of my biggest mentors. So, it's been weird not having him to reach over to and be like, hey man, I got a question. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, a week after he left, they asked me to step up to basically be like team lead, director. We don't really believe in titles too much at Distilled, so basically I'm kind of responsible for the New York City office. Not the boss man, but I'm responsible for it. So it's been cool. It's been fun learning how to kind of inspire a team and lead a team, and it's been a lot of fun. We're kicking ass and taking names. Am I allowed to say ass on here?
You're allowed to say anything you want.
All right, we're kicking ass and taking
like
names.
HBO.
Yeah. And it's been real cool seeing the team come together. We've all kind of had to bond together a bit more, and we're working together a lot more collaboratively, getting some really big, cool clients, and kicking it out of the park for them. It's been a good challenge, but it's definitely been a challenge. But it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, you guys have a really strong team over there. Shout out to the Distilled New York guys.
What up, Distilled New York?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you just added a new guy.
Yeah, we just added Mike Tecula. So he just came from another agency in the city out in Long Island, Queens. He just started yesterday actually. So he jumped in yesterday, 2 days ago actually. I think Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Yeah. So he jumped straight in. Started building some tools, messing around with some APIs, and
Nice.
just
Cool.
making things happen, taking ownership of stuff. So
Yeah,
I love
very
that.
very similar with Tom. He's come in and he's already changing how we're doing stuff. So
Yeah.
it's always good to have a new, very talented person that can just jump in and start affecting change immediately.
Absolutely. It makes you think about stuff differently.
Absolutely. So next question.
All right.
What's the number one mistake sites make when penalized by Google?
All right. This is a great question. This is one that's near and dear to my heart. I get asked this question a lot. I get asked by a lot of people. They're like, hey, this algorithm rolled out, and I've been buying links for a long time, and I got hit by this. I got hit by the exact match algorithm or Panda or Penguin, and then I went and did all this crazy stuff, and nothing happened. Now what do? I'm like, whoa, back up. Because a lot of people, an algorithm rolls out and it's just knee-jerk reaction. It's like, oh man, it's got to be this, so I'm going to go take down these links. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. It's like, well, no, don't. First, stop. You know that saying, keep calm and carry on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, you can't just keep carrying on with what you've been doing because obviously that got you hit. But I wouldn't go and just have a knee-jerk reaction to it. Ask some trusted friends in the industry, hey man, have you seen anything? What do you think is going on here? What have you seen in the data you've been collecting? This is an argument for collecting a lot of data as well to see what's going on across different verticals. I mean, we're lucky working in an agency setting, right? So I feel like we kind of have a
advantage.
Yeah, we have an advantage, but we also have kind of a responsibility to share what we're seeing as well. To show people this is what it looks like going on. This is what's going on with this penalty. This is what the data is telling me. But yeah, I guess I would tell people don't just go and start removing links, or don't go and flip your domain from exact match domain to something else. Actually go and dig into the data and look and say all right, in my vertical, are there other exact match domains still ranking? okay, why? Dig into their links, dig into their on-page content, dig into their site structure. The biggest thing I look at is their anchor text. It's like if it's an exact match domain that has a ton of exact match anchor text, it's going to be. It's not like branded anchor text. Like if you're looking at pool cues or something like that. It's like pool space cues. That's not your brand name right there, right? Pool cues, poolcues.com. Google can tell this, right? So you got to go and look. What's the common factors across these sites that are still ranking? And then obviously, if you've been tracking your own SERPs, you know who else dropped.
Right.
So what do they have in common with you?
And you make a good point where it's like our responsibility to share this type of information. I mean, that's what the SEO community is built on, because there's no real guidebook. I mean, obviously Google gives you their guidelines and how they think you should do SEO, but it's really people like us who do the work, test everything, and figure out what is exactly working, and sharing that with the community. Because otherwise, there would be nothing to go off of aside from like Big Brother telling us do it this way, and that's the way it works.
There you go. Yep.
So you kind of already touched on exact match domains. Is there anything else you want to talk about with that?
No, I mean it's been interesting because Google said a few years ago. I saw a presentation the other day from Rand. I don't know if you guys saw this from like 2009, where basically he had a quote from Matt saying that like exact match domains are going to stick around and be a strong signal, for a long time. And then 6-8 months ago, he said that they were going to be looking at exact match domains, or maybe even a little bit further back than that. And then finally they rolled it out. I think some people got caught in the crossfire, but it's been interesting digging into the data because I have a client that has a bunch of e-commerce sites that they've done some shady stuff in the past before they came to work with us. So you're trying to clean up sites, but some of them we haven't gotten to yet have gotten hit by this exact match algorithm. I'm not going to call it a penalty because it's not a penalty. Submitting a reconsideration re-inclusion request probably isn't going to do anything. So I tell them like, don't do it. It's not worth it. But going and digging into the data and seeing the biggest one I've seen, as I said just a bit ago, was anchor text. If you've been buying links or just going real strong on anchor text, and you have an exact match domain, you're probably going to be in trouble. But I did just see a tweet just a little bit ago from Todd Malloch, Tom Double, where basically he said, and I've been seeing this as well, is in local markets, exact match domains are still working really well, but in like the big verticals, they're not. Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
which I totally agree with.
You mentioned reconsideration requests, and in lieu of Penguin, there's this thought going around that reconsideration requests aren't doing anything.
Right.
What do you think about that?
It's hard because sometimes people will get a response. I know people that have definitely gotten a response and they've been told like, well, these links are what ones that we see that are hurting you. Unfortunately,
the hard truths.
Right. Unfortunately, the way people get feedback isn't the same across the board, right? I mean, I'm sure we've all had them where we submit them and you don't hear anything. It's like, what the heck, right? And I think that's the story for most people. So as much as I'd like to say, if you submit a re-inclusion request or reconsideration request, you're going to hear something back. You're probably not. So I honestly at this point, especially with stuff like EMDs and all that, it's going to be a waste of time, right? You're going to waste a bunch of time going and doing analysis or writing up a report and waiting for feedback. Might as well just go and do some work. After you've done that data, after you've not freaked out and just had a knee-jerk reaction, gotten into the data, go and do some work and get your site back to where it should be.
Cool. So this question comes from one Dave Manchallo, who was actually on the first Lunch with the Expert, now called Lunch Break. He asked, how do they cram all that gram in the golden gram?
Well, Dave, it's a phenomenal question. I hate you. No. Just kidding. I don't know. I wish I knew. Who makes golden grams anyways?
I think that's General Mills.
General Mills?
I think.
All right.
Have to get back to you on that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go do some research. Write a blog post about it. Probably not. GeneralMills.com, I bet I can tell you.
Yeah.
If they have content,
GM.com.
that long-tail quitter.
Yeah, exactly. Pro tip, General Mills.
Get your inbound marketing. All right. So next question comes from @DJ Cotton. They ask, because I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, why do SERPs sometimes show meta descriptions that have nothing to do with the site? example, hotel site, meta description is about headphones.
Right. Well, as you know, Google has recently been changing titles, meta descriptions a lot more, right, to fit the query. They had a post about this on the Inside Search blog, I believe it was, a while ago. Some people have been seeing this where it's content from another site that's ranking. Actually, you might remember this. Remember, like a year or so ago, my site, like my own, SEO site, was pretty new.
Distilled jacked your title.
Yeah, Distilled stole my page title. Like a link from Distilled site was
The title
was preference over my own title. The content wasn't on the page. It was down like in a pingback or something like that. Like way down the page. Wasn't in the H1. Wasn't in like the main content. Wasn't in the page title, anything like that. And that started showing.
Were you able to tell if it was because of the pingback that was on the page or because of the anchor text coming into that page?
I don't really remember. It was a while ago.
I don't know if you remember, I shared this with you. Mark Kennedy in Philadelphia, I think it's at Mark Kennedy SEM on Twitter. So he had a client where one of their main pages, the title was changed in the search from an internal anchor text from some other page on the site that was not really prominent in the overall site architecture, and that internal anchor text was being treated as the title for that specific page.
Right.
So basically, it's very inconsistent.
It's very inconsistent. But I mean, obviously, I think the takeaway is that the signal there, Google is seeing a signal that they don't think that your title or your meta description fits that query. So I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter, right? Like if it's a term that's not going to be driving any traffic, or it might drive some traffic, but it has nothing to do with your business, I wouldn't worry about it, right? I mean, if it's for one of your main terms, obviously something you need to think about. But
have you seen meta descriptions where it says this meta description is unavailable because of the robots?
Yeah, I've been seeing that more. Yeah.
So speaking of, you want to add more?
Well, I'll just say I don't like that because it obviously shows that Google sometimes ignores the robots.txt and they'll still index pages that we have told them not to index.
Right.
Yeah, it's been happening a lot.
Yeah, like I remember when the Facebook filing came around, the SEC filing, the page on the SEC.gov site is actually robots.txt excluded, but it was like number 4 for Facebook SEC filing.
Wow.
It just had the URL. There was no meta description. It was just the URL, but it was indexed and ranking highly for that word.
Wow.
And it was disallowed in the robots tag.
Absolutely.
Do you know if there was a meta robots tag for a no index?
It was a PDF, so it wasn't one. So the thing is, so many people were linking to it that they were just like, it has to go on the index.
Right.
But yeah, in cases when that happens, they use the meta robot. That works like perfectly to get it out of there. At least in my experience.
Yep.
So speaking of inconsistencies, let's not point the finger at Google for this one. Why are Bing/Yahoo so inconsistent in ranking? For example, the rankings are good in Google, but not always in Yahoo/Bing. Any tips? And that comes from Taylor Toussaint. I don't know if I said that right. Toussaint.
I don't know. Well, it's a good question. I mean, I honestly have to go back and question whether it's even worth the time looking at Bing and Yahoo. Obviously, some verticals it is important, but honestly, Bing and Yahoo are basically Google's algorithm a few years ago. So stuff may rank really well in Yahoo and it doesn't rank well in Bing, or it doesn't rank well in Google. Excuse me. So I mean, often I don't really care about that too much because most of my clients, they get their traffic, most of their organic traffic from Google.
Right. And their baby.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that one. You guys have any thoughts?
In other words, nobody cares about Bing and Yahoo, so why do you? No, but seriously, it's been said that I haven't seen the data on this, but it's been said that Bing and Yahoo, or specifically Bing, traffic has a higher conversion rate, typically because these are less tech savvy people. They're people that they got a computer and IE is their default browser.
Bing is their default search.
Exactly. So they're not the people that are as hard to convince. So to that point, in specific verticals, Bing is very important.
Well, that also speaks to what your business's target demographics are. If they're generally older, if they're generally female, they might have a higher conversion rate. I've seen that on clients that I've worked with where it was double the conversion rate for Bing and Yahoo traffic even though the traffic was half the amount, if not less, than the Google traffic.
Right.
And against that point, we're actually working on a study right now comparing the search volumes per vertical between Google and Bing. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so like we're pulling, I think we decided to pull about 1 million keywords and compare the search volumes like over time to see, where is it worthwhile to focus on Bing.
Yeah.
But I like to see more data on, what it takes to get into Bing. Like, it actually might be worthwhile to just do a couple tests to see what it takes to rank in Bing. Is it those social signals? Because they're making a huge play towards the social signals, and they have that direct integration with both Twitter and Facebook. So, like you said, that's what Google was doing a few years ago, especially with like the Twitter integration.
Right.
Obviously, not so much with Facebook.
Right.
So it would be good to see like exactly what does it take to make it.
Well, it's possible as well. The social integration is a really good call because it's actually it could be possible that they're prioritizing like fresh content and not just QDF like Google does. I mean, obviously, Google can see some tweets and they can see some Facebook stuff, but not nearly as much as Bing, obviously. So maybe Bing is putting a lot more weight on those, and so like if you're getting a lot of social signals, it goes up, and then like you produce a piece of content, and then a week later, when there's not much social going on, then it drops back down. Right. So I mean, that could be a cause for it, but I mean, it's interesting though that they say they don't see much volatility in Google in rankings because I see a lot of volatility.
Well, I think they were speaking specifically to a specific client or site.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's basically there just needs to be more insight into what's going on in Bing. But the thing is, just nobody cares about it.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, I think it could teach us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I forgot to mention that we're eating here, and this is our lunch.
Trying to eat.
Yeah, we're trying to eat. We actually just got lunch from Junior's, which is pretty world famous for their cheesecake. And if you guys ever watched Making the Band on MTV. Puff Daddy, I believe his name is, made the kids,
the artist formerly known as,
made the kids walk all the way to the Juniors by where we live in Brooklyn, and they had to like literally walk across the bridge from here. And the funny thing is, our Juniors is literally down the street. We're on 44th and 8th, and it's like between 8th and 7th. So, and there's also one in Grand Central. So I don't understand why those kids didn't just go there. But
TV.
Yeah, and they're also not from New York, so they probably just wouldn't know. I don't know. I'd have a smartphone and be like, "Where is the closest Juniors?" Anyway, yeah, that's all the questions from the crowd. I mean, Tom, you got anything you want to ask?
Yeah, so I was actually a bit curious what we were talking about with QDF and things like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buzz earlier in the year about entity search, and it kind of seems like it dropped off a little bit, but I've definitely been seeing different layouts for the SERPs. What are some things that you've seen work or don't work to try to start influencing? Is it just a matter of schema.org markups, or are there other things that?
Yeah, so I haven't done a ton of testing on it. I know it's been interesting seeing like as Google rolls out the knowledge graph. Obviously they bought what was the company that they bought that does all the
Freebase.
No, Freebase. Yeah. Freebase. So they're building out that they're building that out, and basically it seems like they're doing a lot of it by scraping like different sources, scraping Wikipedia, and scraping different news sites and all that. So and they're not really like prioritizing their own images either. They like for actors they'll pull it from IMDb, and for for other other known personalities, they may pull it from like Danny Sullivan. They may pull it from like Search Engine Land or somewhere like that, somewhere that he's associated with it. So you can definitely control to an extent that text. I think often they pull the text from Wikipedia. So if you want to get in there, if you want to have the knowledge graph showing up for you, making sure you have a Wikipedia page, getting a trusted source to do it. They can be pretty hard sticklers about that, but I think schema influences a bit. Google's still kind of inconsistent about how they recognize schema. Like it has to be from like a trusted source for the most part.
There's actually a presentation that Matthew J. Brown from AudienceWise did on this, and he's actually going really in depth, and it's like the next thing I really want to tackle master because it's actually really cool, and it's where it seems like search is going. But there's a lot of data in there on like word pairs or something, not word pairs, but like 3 grams. So it's like this person is that, and they find those mentions throughout the web and use those to inform the different knowledge graph things.
Right.
But yeah,
It was like that page that Google used to have that would show you like how you were known around the internet.
Absolutely.
So like they know that Mike King is associated with twitter.com/iPullRank and iPullRank.com and iAcquire/Mike and whatever. But I mean, we can't see that anymore. That would give us real valuable data into it. But obviously they're using those connections to.
Yeah, it was a really insightful presentation. I definitely want to, when I have time, like really go into it.
Right.
Start playing with the things.
Where did he give that? I didn't see that.
He gave it at SMX Advanced, and
back in June.
yeah, he gave it. I think he gave it again at East last week.
All right.
So it's definitely a presentation that's worth checking out.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I think we're good here, and it's a good time for us to finish our lunch.
Yeah, let's do it.
Starving.
So we'll see you guys next Friday for another edition of Lunch Break. We had John Doherty here,
Thanks, guys.
Tom Harari, and myself, Mike King. A big shout out to Megan Brown on the camera and for collecting questions for us. So be sure to get your questions in next week, and we figure out who we're going to talk to next. And see you next time.